the other person could have, let's say, a red mark or a scratch. Good afternoon, everybody. This is David Kohlmeyer, the Problem Solver. Thank you so much for joining the show today. Every single week, I have amazing people that are also helping people solve problems. This week, today, we're having a special guest who basically is helping solve problems as an attorney, dealing with businesses and estate planning, and also that is starting a new nonprofit helping people. Every single week, again, any type of problem that you have, you can always call the Problem Solver at 702-400-7474. We also have a progressive web app, which is www.theproblemsolver.vegas. Any issues or problems, there's no problem that's too small or too big that we can't handle. If I can't handle it, I will have another problem solver basically help you out. Again, today we have a special guest to the left of me. We have Shawna Brennan. Shawna, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Hi, David. Thank you for having me.
So you are an attorney at law locally in town, and you also are launching, and you're a founder of a nonprofit. What is the nonprofit's name?
Our nonprofit is Regeneration Vision Center, and what we are is a vocational and job center for women in recovery from sex trafficking and acute trauma.
Okay. That's a lot. So just to recap, what we're going to do today is that, because you got a lot of stuff going on where I haven't had someone that really was an attorney talking about businesses, especially with COVID going on. So I think it's a great topic to talk about it. But I also want to talk about the nonprofit because you're about to do great things locally in town. So let's get me a little bit more information about you. Tell us a little bit about where you're from, law school. Give me the works. Give me the lowdown.
Sure thing. Well, I live in Henderson, Nevada, actually. I've been in Las Vegas for many years, grew up here as a child, and I had an opportunity to go to Notre Dame Law School. And when I got out of law school, I practiced on the East Coast, kind of came from the East like you. And then when I ended up back here in Las Vegas, I was a transactional attorney the whole time, pretty much always doing large deals, banking deals. I had been an in-house lawyer with Bank of America. That was very exciting. And then when I came here, I had opportunity to work with some large transactional law firms. And then I found that my practice was migrating to just a few individual business owners. So I was able to start my own firm and have a boutique practice. I walked into court. After 25 years of practicing law, I walked into commercial court pretty fearless and got some really great results for my clients. I think having the background of transactional drafting big deals, real estate in particular, and then also now understanding how to navigate the courts and how judges look at some of those clauses has been really helpful for my clients. Yeah.
As you're speaking about it, I'm thinking of the show, Suits. Is that anything similar to what you've done in the past?
I think there are definitely aspects of that because you have the dynamics of the clients and the demands that they have, and then you also have the internal workings of the lawyers and sorting out our obligation to the client.
Because it was a large firm that you worked for.
Yes, I work for large firms and in-house counsel.
What would you say the size of a law firm that you worked for more business transactions? What for over the years?
Well, on the East Coast, probably 250 lawyers,
wow,
in the day. And it was exciting because when you work for a firm of that caliber, then you have the opportunity, let's say it's real estate. I'm working on something that has air rights. And I'm working on something that has all these very complex aspects, which you don't normally see in a small firm. So that was very exciting.
Yeah, so I used to watch Suits. I enjoyed this show. Yeah. Of course, it's a TV show. But a lot of times, right, there's a lot of reality to the shows, right? Personalities of people and how to deal with people and how to deal with the lawyers. Just like when I was a police officer, right? Police officers have different personalities or supervisors or night shift and swing shift. So, I'm assuming working also, like I worked for New York City Police Department, I was one out of 40,000 police officers. Yeah. And then I worked in Henderson as an officer where I was one out of like 300. So it's just a totally different, situation, I guess, where you work. But it definitely seems very cool and exciting. Did you enjoy your experience for working in a large firm like that?
I definitely did. And I would say that one of the most interesting aspects really is the relationships with the clients. So I'm enjoying that now in my own private law firm, a couple attorneys that work with me that I can work really closely with clients on their transactions. What I found in the big firm, though, was more difficult to really understand what the client was after because there were kind of layers of other partners and lawyers involved. So we do enjoy that now with a boutique firm, actually a closer relationship. And then contrast that with an in-house counsel where you are the client also. And so sometimes it's very difficult to be firm with them about things that, let's say, might be breaking the law. Because even in transactions, you can break the law, especially think of gaming and banking. There's regulations that they can't cross over. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes the lawyers, just like very much like the police officers, put in an interesting situation because you're dealing with people who are your same client base is actually your coworker, meaning it could be a city official, or in my case, it was a bank officer, or maybe I was in-house for a gaming company as well. So that was a very different dynamic.
You know, it's funny. My mother always wanted me to be an attorney because she said I would love to argue. But I always felt like I wanted to be on the street and with like reality, like what's going on the streets, I guess, just a little bit different in general, even though you argue in a courtroom. But I guess every experience is a little bit different. But I mean, it definitely seemed exciting and challenging when you have different clients with different situations, right? Mm-hmm. But would you say a lot of your time was actually doing research to see, like, if you talked about gaming or banking and crossing over what you're not allowed, was a lot of your job researching to make sure they should do things, legally and correct?
Well, pretty much I'm a transactional attorney first. Okay. So I'm doing deals and drafting documents later when I walked into court. Then I would look at more case law to see which of those provisions would actually be upheld in other jurisdictions. And interesting to dig deeper. So once I do believe that when I walked into court, I had a different perspective. That helps now a lot with transactions because I think I can bring a reality check. Mm-hmm. People, the one-sided type of contract, those days are over. Courts will not enforce that. So there really is an incentive for, let's say you're the landlord and there's a tenant. So there's a sense of fairness, and that is reflected in the contract. So I think those are the changes.
So let's just recap. What type of law do you do? So we have business law.
Yeah, primarily we represent business owners. Okay. And then we will go into court for commercial litigation if they have a case or situation. And we also continue to do transactions. Now we're seeing a lot of great deals in the market now. And so people may want to buy a portfolio of real estate and then they need it to be reviewed. That's called due diligence. Maybe there's some zoning type of issue or special financing. We have these great things called opportunity zones. You may have heard of that. Mm-hmm. So a lot of investors are interested. But these types of specialty projects do require a little research because if you want to buy in an opportunity zone and take advantage of the tax deferral, which is basically what it is. So it literally defers and then wipes out tax. So you want to sell your $10 million project in LA, but you don't want to pay the capital gain tax. So President Trump put into place an investment called Opportunity Zone Area, and it's a designated area. Mm-hmm. So let's say it's something like that. I help the client to navigate that. What are the requirements? Making sure that it's qualifying so that if they hold it for the number of years they're required, the entire capital gain is wiped out to zero.
So basically incentive to invest in an opportunity.
Right, and reinvest because these are disadvantaged neighborhoods, for example.
To try to revitalize areas.
Exactly.
And they're giving basically tax incentive to basically have businesses in those areas.
Well, and to have you reinvest and not just spend your money on a yacht and a plane and your retirement or something else.
Good point. Yeah. All right, let's jump into the nonprofit, and then we'll come back to all these the legal stuff in general, which is, like I said, it's exciting to have you on to talk about business law, I guess, because I have a business mindset as well. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to go over some of the business things, especially with COVID. But let's talk about, I know that you said you're launching and you're a founder of the Regeneration Vision Center. Tell me a little bit about what you're working on.
Well, one of the issues that we have, of course, kind of everyone's talking about sex trafficking is a little bit of a buzz. I've been in this field for about 12 years. I didn't have any affiliation with it. I just became very impressed with the burden that people have coming out of acute trauma and trying to get their life back together. Many of these women have had a history of drug use and they have a criminal record, so essentially they're not employable. And so besides getting them into a clean and sober type of a situation and then dealing with their maybe criminal record, if they have children, is there a time they could be reunited? It's just all these issues, but it's more acute because they have been traumatized. And so there's some great organizations here. Salvation Army is boots on the ground. We have mini residential programs. But what I realized is there was nothing for them to do after the program. So they would go through all of this, escape the life. Well, you're the police officer. You would see that ground zero, like get them out of the life. They're off the street now. They're out of their situation. And then put them in a recovery program. But afterwards, they were just put back out to the streets. So we were seeing very high recidivism. So after a lot of research and seeing other models, we put together what's called a social enterprise. It's a business social enterprise. And what that is a nonprofit that creates a center for work for people of that population. So in Las Vegas, we have a similar social enterprise, which is Opportunity Village, and they help intellectually challenged adults. So our social enterprise helps this target group of women in recovery from sex trafficking, and so it gives them a place to come and work and have community and feel worthwhile. And we really believe that healing comes through very meaningful work and being productive. So hopefully they, if they stay with our program, we have a 12-month internship and we have an apprenticeship. If they stay with our program, they can continue to work with us, and then they go off welfare and other financial dependence, and it'll bring stability.
That's amazing. Yeah. Let me ask you a question in regards to that. So I always tell people that there's so many nonprofits out there. Like I worked with United Way and I work with a lot of nonprofits. When you say Regeneration and Vision Center and you work with Opportunity Village, what was the reason why that you needed Regeneration and Vision Center? Because Opportunity Village already exists. What's the reason why?
Yeah, that's a very great question. So Opportunity Village does what we do, but they serve a different population. So we don't work with them in the sense that we don't work with intellectually challenged adults. If we encountered them, we would send them to Opportunity Village. Okay. So if someone comes in who's a traumatized sex trafficking victim, Opportunity Village doesn't necessarily know what to do with them because they only work with that special population. Yes.
Mental health, mental disability.
Yeah. So what we found was this was a gap in service. So what you're referring to is continuum of service. And I agree that do not duplicate efforts. Don't be competing for the funds. Let's all work together to serve whatever the population is with a continuum of care.
So basically you're using Opportunity Village as the place for vocational...
The example.
For work, but you're still helping them separately because of their unusual situation, right?
Well, again, that was the example. We are not them and we don't work with them. We do what they do for women who are sex trafficked. So that's a model that we duplicated. So the women come in and we train them different jobs to do, and then they can stay and work, or when they finish our program, hopefully they can reintegrate into society.
Where are you going to have? Are you have a physical building?
Yes,
office?
we do. We're working on the location. It's undisclosed because many of these women still have people who are after them, or they may actually have outstanding legal situations themselves. So we have an undisclosed location, but we are opening October 1st.
Is that going to be like, I know I used to work with SafeNest as well, October 1st. So is this one location going to be like housing and vocational and training in one spot?
Mm-hmm. Only the vocational and training. The housing was already provided in the market, so we did not need to provide that service.
So vocational and training will start October 1st for your nonprofit, and the housings are already set up with another organization?
Usually they already have their housing.
Okay.
And so they have other services, like if they need mental health care, medical care, child care, if they're able to get their kids back. We make sure that that care is provided, but we don't provide that. We do what you call...
Like case management in some regards?
They have case management, but we do the earn while you learn. Mm-hmm. So we are paying them to come to a vocational program.
Got it. That's different. Mm-hmm. So they're actually getting paid...
Correct.
To go through the program.
Correct.
I think that's one thing that I kind of haven't heard of. So that's it's the way of getting people, like at least that you're paying them to be part of the program in order to get them the help, right? Because they couldn't afford to, not to work, right?
Well, I think that's absolutely true. But I think this idea of earning for the benefit is gaining popularity. So let's say you need a parenting something or some diapers for your kids. If you go to the charity, sometimes now they'll ask you to sit through a parenting class for an hour. They give you tokens. You use the tokens to get the diapers. In other words, you're also learning.
They're trying to
and
teach you
earning.
at the same time.
Exactly.
Before they were just kind of giving it out.
Yeah, we do hand up, not hand out.
It's so funny. Every time someone says this, we had, I think he was on the show, Paul Marino, which is Sober Homies. Do you know him at all? Or?
Not. I know of his outreach.
And basically he talks about like we want to give people a hand up, not a handout. And I always like that saying. So whenever someone says hand up or something, I'm always thinking of him saying it because he said it so much, But I do agree with that. Actually, I guess I haven't really heard. Well, recently my wife does real estate, and when you buy, I'm not sure if you know this specifically because I didn't really know this. When you buy a home these days, if you're putting less than 5% down, they make you take a class. I guess about like homes or business or finance, because if it's below 5%, there's mortgage insurance for the life of the loan or something like that. So they want you to go through a class and get a certificate just to get the loan. Now, if it's above 5% down, then you don't have to take the class and get the certificate. So I don't really remember that. I think years ago I was like first time home buyer, 3.5% down. I don't remember taking a class or a certificate. But I do agree with the educational component because at least you're teaching people and you hope that's going to help them for the future instead of just giving them something and not understanding the value or how to, achieve a certain benefit in the future.
Exactly.
So I like that. I guess I'm having to earn while you learn. So how long will the program be? So let's just say I'm a victim. I went through trauma. I was part of sex trafficking. I had someone that was taking advantage of me. I have 2 kids. I have a housing location. I find out about Regeneration Vision Center. And if I join and it's earn while you learn, how long is the program?
So we have several tracks. So some of our participants are on Social Security disability because of the trauma that they've suffered. So they're really only available to work part-time and probably minimum wage. So we offer part-time minimum wage. Okay. We teach them some skills. They have a place to come to. They can take pride in their work. The more common level and what we're targeting are people who have the capability to be able to learn new trade and skills. And so for those people, we have 2 programs. One is an internship, and that is 6 months long. And during the internship, they learn basic things like, say, keyboarding. You cannot survive today if you cannot type. Everything is on the computer. You have to navigate a form. You have to fill it in. So we teach them the basics of keyboarding. If somebody already knows how to type, then they'll fly right through keyboarding. And we go all the way up to, say, Microsoft certification. If they show the capability, we just keep that training coming. And we do have a lot of corporate type partners that are coming alongside us and either giving us a nonprofit discount or providing the licenses for free for the training. So we have quite a nice stack of educational materials. So they spend about a third of their time in the educational modules, and it is customized to their skill set. We're going to kind of feel them out, see what they're doing. And then they spend the balance of the time actually hands-on working, and that is learning a trade. And then at the end of the 6 months, if they complete it satisfactorily, then they're offered a job and they can stay. If they excel, then they're offered to go into what we call apprenticeship. And the apprenticeship is more learning, say, the things you love, the entrepreneurial things. So then they're going to learn some back of the office things. They're going to learn some bookkeeping, QuickBooks, so forth. They're going to learn some of that social media marketing. And so we're just going to put them kind of through the whole business module in the 12 months. And we'll be doing some other practical training. We'll spend probably a couple of months in a commercial kitchen. Many of the restaurants are really desperate for more skilled workers. So we would spend a couple months in a kitchen, teach them basic kitchen skills. And I have many businesses who've said, we would hire your people. We would not start them at entry. We'll hire them higher up if they have these basic skills. So part of our goal is to really find out what their aptitude is. Maybe all they really can do is a repetitive thing every day. They just don't want to be bothered. Maybe they really want to do creative and they're really great on social media. and or branding. We don't know till we get them in there. So we're taking a very entrepreneurial, custom approach. Yeah.
Where are you getting most of your referrals from? Like, are you working with like United Way, or who would be referring you?
Yeah, our referral partners are the housing programs. So we have some great housing programs here: Refuge for Women, Destiny House, which is Andy Lobear Hookers for Jesus outreach. We have Hoving Home, which has locations all over the United States, and also Salvation Army. They have a program called Seeds of Hope. So there's a few other smaller church-related programs, and they refer their completers. They're called Phase 1 when you're first going through sobriety and clean and sober and some of the basics. That's the Phase 1. We are known as Phase 2.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate the breakdown because, like I said, I deal with a lot of people, and I'm always trying to refer people. Like I said, I've dealt with on the show. We have about maybe 27 episodes. We started February 1st. And then, so like I said, we've had Hope for Prisoners. We've had Sober Homies. We've had Novum U. We've had Nevada Cure, helping people that come out from prison, the program, helping people that are homeless. We have Shine a Light, where they go down, into the homeless, into the tunnels to get people out. Addiction, I guess you would say Phase 1, to basically get them some help, working with Crossroads and stuff like that. And then I worked with many years as a community policing officer with United Way with 211. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Most people don't know, but you know this. Do you know the difference? Like, most people know 911, 311, but you know about 211 on the phone if you call 211?
No, I don't know.
It's been around a long time. It's actually a funny story because a cop got mad at me once when it first came out. 211. Basically, it's United Way, but it's a referral service where basically that if you have a problem, like you need diapers or you need bus tokens, you're homeless, you can call 211. Originally, it was from a landline phone, not on a cell phone years ago, talking maybe 17 years ago. And you just say, hey, I need help. I need diapers. My wife, my husband left me. I have no money. Where can I get diapers? They'll say, go to Catholic Charities. This is the address. Go here, go there. So if you can call 211 now on your cell phone or your landline, and it's a referral service. So the truth is, like, if I said, like, look, I'm a victim of sex trafficking and I need some help, I need some training, 211 would say, hey, contact a Regeneration Vision Center, and there's a number and here's an address. So you want to be listed there. And what happens is it's one place that basically is always keeping the information fresh of where to go. So if, like, I basically need like a housing voucher, they'll say contact Clark County Social Services. So 211, sometimes you see, maybe like we're fortunate, so we're at a different level, I guess, but some people are not. So basically there are bus stops that say United Way, call 211, stuff like that. But I'm always telling people, make sure you get on the list, because that's a way of basically helping more people, because we need to let people know that basically there's another nonprofit that's helping a little bit more of a niche, people in general. So I think that's great what you're doing in general. I definitely, I have an app, which is the problemsolver.vegas. Not that there's millions of people on it, but the more people, what it's good about is I keep adding the different nonprofits or people that are helping. And then basically if it comes up, we'll say, go to the app and the information will be listed there. If there's employment or before there was vaccination places and locations. So on the app, the problemsolver.vegas will get updated information. So when you go live for October 1st, it may just be the phone number. The address may be confidential of where you're located, but we could put a phone number, Regeneration Vision Center, so that if it comes up, I could always refer people. I'm actually starting something on there where if you're homeless, people, when you see people that are homeless on the street, basically on the corner, like, some people don't want to give money, especially with COVID, and all this other stuff going on. But we have a spot where basically you can GPS the location, take a photo if it's a camp, and then you can press the button, upload the information, and they'll get sent out to the different nonprofits that are handling housing. Because, if you're in Henderson and you call like someone in Las Vegas, they don't deal with it. You have to go through Henderson. So the main thing is just so people don't overthink it. They just do one click of a button and it gets sent out. So basically it's going to be like a homeless resource, like homeless mobile resource, where basically people get sent out right away. And I don't think I think people just see people homeless and many people just don't do anything, but they feel bad. So at least it gives them a tool to use. And by using the app, you can do that and getting people help. So whatever I can do to basically help your nonprofit, I like to do. I've been around the block as a cop, for 17 years, helping people. I used to always ask people if they were in a situation, hey, if you feel victimized, if you need some help. I've taken people to Safe Nest, Shade Tree, all those places, always confidential locations. So if people need help, I think it's great that you're doing that. And it is more of a specific niche and definitely is, needed. And I think it takes time for people. It seems like right now it's a trending topic, especially like a lot of people are coming out now.
Right.
saying
right.
like I was victimized, or 30 years ago I was victimized, or where people were, I think, were scared to come out in general.
And we're really concerned after the pandemic closures about the number of incidences of increased victimization. So I think it remains to be seen how bad it really has been for the last year, because some of your traditional kind of sex for money sources were dried up. So we haven't really seen everything yet. What might be coming out of that, but hopefully we can provide resources and recovery for them.
That's a good question. Do you think there was an increase or decrease? I'm assuming decrease.
Increase. It just was more in the home, and known
instead of being on the street or the strip.
Yeah, known perps instead of the unknown.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Which is sad. This is all sad, but
got it. So the bottom line is, if anybody needs help, as usual, problemsolver.vegas. My phone number's out there. I can connect you guys together. Anyone that needs help, I'm basically just putting out there. I'm 24/7. I'll pick up the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning for anybody and try to set things up for anybody. I kind of act like I'm a police officer 24/7. I'm no longer in uniform, but I'm trying to basically help people. So anybody that calls me, I'm trying to go above and beyond. So I definitely want to basically add you as a resource.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think there are a few people who've been through recovery who might qualify for our program, but they never really got traction. Because the studies are showing it takes 3 to 5 years to really be integrated back into life. So it is possible that if someone hears this broadcast, that they feel like they're qualified, that they've come through a recovery program and they were a victim of sex trafficking, but because of criminal records or other reasons, they can't get a job.
Got it.
That we would love to meet with them. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we will share the information about the nonprofit. Thanks for all the stuff that you do in the community. You are solving problems and helping people, especially with your business background, being, I will say, alpha female, helping people, direction, leadership. I mean, that's what's basically needed to get these things moving. So we need leaders, and so I applaud you for all your efforts.
Thank you.
So let's jump into some of the questions basically in regards to business law and the things that you do on a daily basis. Question for you. You deal with so many businesses with COVID going on. One of my first questions is, what's the number one protection that a business owner can basically put into place? Like if I have a business, whether it's a storefront, like what do I need to do to protect my business in regards to your legal advisement? What would you say?
Well, I think that's tough because it depends on what the business is. So I think the first and most important thing is that they need to really be talking to all of their advisors, because you've got insurance issues, you have financial planning issues, and then of course the legal issues. So we found a lot of people thought they had insurance coverage for things like a flu, like a COVID, but because it came after SARS, most of the insurance companies have put in exclusions for flu, and everyone kind of missed that. So just things like this, I would say, not being knocked off your game. You have to really assess where you're at and be ready to pivot. It's hard. People did things the same way so long that we still see a little reluctance to maybe deal aggressively with the situation. But in a lot of respects, things are not coming back.
Okay. Second question I have for you is, I noticed that some law firms basically were doing lawsuits, and you mentioned before that they're putting the exclusion rules in there. But I know some lawyers are trying to fight the insurance companies. They're saying, because a lot of businesses basically have lost income. So what are your thoughts in regards to businesses or law firms now representing businesses that are doing lawsuits against insurance companies saying, hey, like I've never read any of these, contracts of 40 pages from the insurance companies, but basically a lot of it was like loss of pay, right? What are your thoughts in regards to that with the lawsuits that lawyers are basically doing now against the insurance companies, saying that exclusion is, they're all saying because COVID, right? Or I don't know what the ruling is. Maybe you're more knowledgeable, but basically they're trying to get that money for business owners.
Well, the interesting thing is that let's take the closure. Okay, this is an emergency action by a government. So, and we were closed, like 90 days. I don't even remember how long it was exactly. But when you think about the mandate to close, and now then we've had the ongoing eviction moratorium mandate, just abomination to business owners and landowners, because you have this ripple effect. And so what happens is, the first consideration is, if it was truly a government action, actually a lot of people are excused from their contract, in the sense that the landlords don't necessarily have to offer you everything that the contract said they would, because the governor told them to close. So it's very interesting because on all sides, you could say, first, am I somehow excused from performance? So that's a consideration. The other is, so that took away from this idea that my loss was because of this virus and I should have a flu kind of income claim. See what I'm saying? So the nature of the claims changed over that 18 months.
But the loss basically, you could say, is because the government basically jumped in and stopped that contract per se, right? But and then a lot of people want to sue the government. There's lawsuits going against to the governor's office, right?
Yeah. So that's called a force majeure. A force majeure is this external, like a tsunami, literally, or a government closure. So these are things outside the control, and usually contracts define that, and they say what would be a force majeure and whether or not it excuses performance. So what's interesting is I think the most successful are the reasonable landlords who work with their tenants, say commercial tenants, the reasonable commercial tenants who pay what they can to the landlord, resolve it early. Don't let that past amount add up, because the tenant will be evicted and then they're going to lose their restaurant business or whatever it was. So one of the most important things for business people is to just deal with it and then kind of document it and modify it as you go. So we didn't know the whole 18 months, right? We didn't know how long we'd be closed. We didn't know the ramp up to reopen. But so as it's going, my clients were modifying their documents as they went. They would be in open communication. And then occasionally you had a party who would not cooperate. And now over time, they're evicted. They lost their restaurant. But I found that the landlords was working with everyone else. So I find that's probably the best approach. And that really supersedes all laws. And it's not a litigious approach. So a lot of litigation lawyers wouldn't recommend this approach. But I'm a transactional business lawyer, and I say everybody should stay in business as long as they can. So I find that the clients usually will work together.
I think it's great that there's grants and these business the programs from the government to basically pay, whether it's landlords or business owners in general. But I mean, a lot of people went out of business. A lot of small business owners just couldn't afford it in general. So you think, in your perspective, your opinion, the lawsuits from other lawyers, which I would say larger firms, which that's not true, it could be an attorney that's not with a large firm, but I think I've seen larger firms saying that, hey, if you basically been denied, that we'll take your case. So it seems like there's litigation now with the insurance companies. Do you think that just will not, I don't know what the right word is, litigate? Do you think that they won't succeed?
Well, and insurance is a little bit of a different animal, because I believe if insurance companies had been showing good faith and paying reasonable claims, but unfortunately they've kind of created an atmosphere of saying no and just no, you have to fight for everything. I'm currently in 2 lawsuits against insurance company for not paying on commercial claims. And at some point it's like, this is just kind of getting ridiculous, but the lawyers just will drag it out for several years thinking they can burn out the business owner. My business owners are diverse businesses and very successful. So they're going to keep fighting.
Well, that's a problem. These insurance companies, right? They always just deny it first.
Yeah, they just keep, and it gets a little bit ridiculous. And so I find that to be, dismal, because it's only the lawyers really are making money. So since I don't really play that game, I'm trying to force a resolution. So in this may be that case that in a way the insurance companies brought this on themselves because they have not really been dealing in integrity. So if everybody kind of trues up, I think we may see settlements that were a little bit beyond what the policy said. If they're able to prove that these exclusions were kind of snuck in. So the best example I can think of is a hotel casino that has the same policy for 15 years. And then literally the year before COVID, in 18, that little provision changed and never brought to their attention, never called out. And then the next year COVID hits, and then we're all reading the policy. Like, when did that get snuck in there? See, so I think this is an example where they might,
timing as well.
And they may not win a literal contract case, but I believe it may result in a settlement across
just so it doesn't
the industry. And so that also, I think insurance companies should be benefiting from some of these government payments as well. So if
insurance companies should actually get paid.
If everyone is benefiting from the government money, then it should trickle down to the appropriate suffering, either business or individual. I'm not sure that's always happening, but that's the objective.
Got it. Crazy times. I mean, it's an unusual topic. What number 3 question I got for you is, what is asset protection?
Well, what happens is pretty much anything you have, everybody else wants. You know, that car, that house, the dog, your kid, your wife. I mean, this is the reality. And
Don't take my wife.
This is what happens. I could. This is what happens with business, okay, as well, is that you have any number of risks. You have like deliberate people who just, or businesses who they want your clients, they want your business line. I mean, even with my nonprofit, we're very proprietary about our business plan because there are other nonprofits who've communicated they want our business plan. Giving them my business plan. So it's so funny because everybody wants what you have, and this is in the business world. So asset protection protects whatever the business has built up for the benefit of the business and its owners. So everything from kind of the slip and fall person with the crazy, you know, I got burned with hot coffee, I'm going to get $1 million kind of lawsuit. And again, not always lawyers of the best integrity, but I'm not giving those jury awards, so I can't say how that person got that. But someone is paying that, and their business is taking a hit. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So the asset protection is a way to structure the organization where it isn't destroyed by claims like that, or market changes, divorces, other people trying to come in and steal your business, all these factors. Yeah.
Interesting. So anything of a business that you want to protect, basically that's something that you can assist with.
Absolutely. So the number one form of asset protection, so I assume you're using this, is that you have a business entity. So you have an umbrella, which is a business like a corporation, LLC, mm-hmm. and then that holds all your assets. So that is actually the number one asset protection that anyone can do. As soon as you have a business idea, then you should form a company.
An LLC or mm-hmm. a corporation, basically exactly. to protect your interest and liability.
And that protects you. That's your very first
step.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Do you believe in trust as well, or that's a whole that gets more advanced? Some people believe mm-hmm. like you should they talk about like real estate, you should actually be holding it in a trust more than an LLC.
Mm-hmm. Well, we do form trusts for estate planning purposes. Mm-hmm. And so you have family trust, you have generation skipping trust, you have all different kinds of trusts. You do have one form of a real estate ownership called a REIT, which is a real estate investment trust. Mm-hmm. That's kind of more like a syndication of different owners. So I'm not sure.
It's more for investment purposes.
Yeah, that's for investment purposes. I'm not aware of holding property in a trust for it definitely is for succession planning, like to give to your heirs and so forth. But other than that, I'm not aware that it would be the predominant structure.
Got it. Okay, number 4, what are the common forms of asset protection?
So again, first is the entity. And then second is to be sure you have contracts and understanding because if a deal goes wrong or something else happens, then you can lose your business. So you want to have everything properly documented. You want to make sure all your payroll, HR, all your compliance, and the other. So it's kind of that strength from within, right, for asset protection. And then the other steps that you take are to consider your vulnerability. So do you have all the right insurance? Again, we hate to feed that monster, but let's say that you operate a watercraft business and you're renting out boats. Well, people are going to get drunk and stupid and kill themselves. And so you're going to be sued. Okay, this is a reality. So you're going to want to have really good insurance and also make them watch the video and train and wear the life vest. Whenever they get out there and get drunk and stupid, you don't know what they're going to do. But we consult with the clients about this. What are your vulnerabilities? How can we make sure that you have the different protections in place?
And I guess every business is different. So basically, like if it was a water, like the boat, right? You watch a video, you sign the paperwork, someone trains you on site, mm-hmm. you sign the paperwork again.
Probably you still get drunk and stupid. You're still going to kill somebody. You're still going to sue.
But the goal is to show that you basically did everything possible to prevent mm-hmm. injury or death.
Yeah, education, waivers, releases, and so forth. Yeah.
It's interesting because when you go to these different places, like for kids, they tell you to sign the waiver, but sometimes I feel like they're not really verifying. Like, how do you know you're just like, you got like a little iPad these days. How do you know what they're even signing? Like, mm-hmm. no one's verifying the kid or what you write Donald Duck and just sign your name. Like, okay, go ahead. Mm-hmm. But I know they're going through the motions, but it probably pays to have a camera on them as well. I mean, all these things you just need to protect yourself frivolous lawsuits, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay, so number 5, how can owners and investors retain control over business operations?
Well, one of the primary ways is, of course, watch the finances. And so that goes through from maybe the product manufacturing delivery aspect. So let's say you have a restaurant, a lot of times the leakage is coming from the bar, leakage is coming from food walking out the door. So there's just a lot of ways to look at the overall operations. But then also I would say just making sure that the business is the finances are being overseen not only by the person who's writing the checks, because your most common kind of internal fraud is the person who has access to the money. So there's just a lot of very simple things that we have our owners put in place to make sure they have all the checks and balances.
So basically, if I had a business, you could actually help come up with protocols
to
basically follow.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, it's sad to say a lot of employees, if it's not your business, theft can take place in different ways. And I really remember a story which was a restaurant that for some reason they were buying like a lot of shrimp. And basically, I guess the guy in the back was like stealing shrimp, the manager or something like that. Like, why is shrimp going up so much, But to figure out the food consumption, how many shrimp, right? I mean, could you imagine running a restaurant? Like, why am I ordering so much flounder?
Exactly.
It's like, and the guy in the back is stealing the flounder out the back. But I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, I used to own a sun tanning salon back in the day. I'm 45 now. From the age of 17 to about 21, I had a sun tanning salon in New York City. And I always remember whether it was sun tanning lotions or the employees and whether they were letting people tan for free or they were giving lotion and where'd that bottle go. I mean, and it was a small tanning salon with like 6 tanning beds. I mean, it was an amazing experience. The experience I got out of it at the end was, in my eyes, to never really have a storefront ever again, because I think it's hard. When you have a storefront in the job, you become like a rat in a box. And then the second thing is just that people always, whether it's theft or people. It's funny, in the tanning salon, there used to be these things back in the day where if you go into if this was a tanning salon room, on the wall there'd be like, if you forgot your suntan lotion, you actually put like 3 suntan lotion packets on the wall, and there was like a little clip. So like when you came to clean the tanning bed, me as like the attendant, even though I was the owner, I would look on the wall to see whether or not someone took the packet and it was in the garbage, and I would say, hey, you owe $3. But people would get smart. They basically would use the lotion, and they would make it like full again, and they would put it back and snap it
gross.
in. So like you never knew. Like if you really didn't check each packet every time, like you didn't know there was like 3 guys before was the one who used the packet. I mean, so there's always theft and crazy people and stuff like that. So it's very, very difficult. So, I mean, any business, I can imagine when you start dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, right? Bookkeepers and you hear all kinds of different scams. So I think it's important to have protocols in place, especially having a business attorney basically be on top of the game and having a bookkeeper and probably a bookkeeper watching the other bookkeeper. It's just like in the police world, I'm not sure if you know, but there's internal affairs, and then there's people that are over internal affairs as well to monitor the internal affairs people. So I just think it's important to make sure that you plan for these businesses, All right, so I think we're at number 6 here. What type of laws and restrictions apply to raising money for your business with private investors? This is an interesting question because there's someone that I know basically is working on it. I didn't get a chance to read. I don't know, they're saying the white paper, but they're saying like it's like a Bitcoin, right? It's a Bitcoin, and I didn't get a chance to read it yet. But basically, they're trying to I guess, mimic Bitcoin and raising money and investing in general. Haven't got a chance to read it. I'm going to send it to you so you can take a look at it. But I just don't get a good feeling about it, But so what are the laws and restrictions basically about raising money? When I came up with this question, I was thinking about this gentleman that basically sending me this information about raising money.
I can give you some free advice. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Well, here's what's very interesting. Bitcoin, I know a lot about. I have a client that is in cryptocurrency, and they do the mining, and they have tens of thousands of mines. So I actually do know a lot about Bitcoin if anybody would like to contact our firm about that. And I do keep up with the regulations. What's interesting is it was actually developed with the intention of kind of staying offline,
off the grid.
Not being subject to regulations. Of course, none of that is true. And so I think that's its whole other conversation. I'd love to come back and talk about that sometime. And I do actually speak on cryptocurrency. So
by the way,
as a side
the
note,
location we're at today is the Sticky Pause Studio. And actually, there is a podcast that is about Bitcoin. And there's a Bitcoin guru. I think he's called the Bitcoin Whisperer. And basically, he speaks, a really great guy. And so maybe we could have you come on the show since you're a business attorney and you know about Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's pretty much contrary to almost everything they think or the way that they're treating it. And I think this is the same with investments. So basically, I'm going to say, I'm a business lawyer and I advise business owners and financial advisors. And so we pretty much stick to the law. And so the law actually, for the protection of the investor, requires certain disclosures and certain registration of different types of investments. Okay. So think about here in Nevada and all this, the mortgage, you may or may not know from the recession was in part compounded in Nevada because of this kind of mortgage inflation debacle that we had. And so some of it was the way that money was raised, what they call first trust deeds. So they just take all these different people, 50,000 each, have them all put it in, buy this big building, and then some third party who really probably didn't have a dollar in it, who was stripping, I call it equity stripping. They're paying themselves big money. They didn't put any money in. And then they would make decisions about the building. But here was all the first trust holders who had invested in it. They don't actually own title. Their name isn't on title. It was an investment scheme involving first trust deeds. So there's a very legitimate way to do this, but then there's an illegitimate way. So as a result of a lot of the money disappearing, so how did like tens of millions of dollars disappear? All these laws changed and more strict regulations were put in place, whereas to now, it's hard for me to make a real estate loan to you, even as private people, because it falls under all of these mortgage protection laws that were put in place to protect both the investor and the borrower. So it's very fascinating to navigate. And so I would suggest that you look first at the track record of the person who's proposing the investment to you. What's their track record? How many other successful investments have they had? And then I would look second and see, are they making some of the standard disclaimers saying, oh, all these projections are just 100% made up pie in the sky. We actually write that on there in plain English.
You're supposed to write that, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. And so is that on there? Are they telling you in the end, what is your ownership? One of the problems we're seeing with the Bitcoin is that they're actually schemes. And in the end, the people don't own the Bitcoin, say like Ethereum or Bitcoin. They just own in this like scheme of this group of people where they all threw in their tens of thousands of dollars and that's all gone. So part of it is understanding what are you going to own in the end, I would say. So from an investment standpoint, we do offer the legal methodology, the syndication papers, the private placement memorandum. We will do the regulation filings with the state of Nevada and with the federal government if the investment scheme requires that. So that's what we offer.
Let's do number 7 as a question in regards to Bitcoin, since we're talking about the topic of Bitcoin. What are your thoughts in regards to the market of Bitcoin? Of course, anything that you say, no one should be basically taking that. This is your personal opinion, but you've been around the block. You're very smart and intelligent. What are your thoughts? I mean, I'm not much if you want to share. Would you invest in Bitcoin? Would you not? And I'll share one thing is the person that does the podcast locally here, we talked about for an hour talking about Bitcoin, and he was teaching me as a beginner. But the interesting thing, what I feel is that you should have at least one Bitcoin for the fact that for an investment for the future, one Bitcoin, or one of the videos he sent me was 2/3 of one coin as an investment for diversification purposes. Mm-hmm. As much as I'm more into real estate more than anything over the years, what's your personal thoughts? What would you like to share about Bitcoin in regard to today's market?
Well, I would say originally I was very skeptical about Bitcoin, and partly because it was being touted as something that would be beyond the law. And unfortunately, it was used in a lot of the dark kind of web, dark trades, illegal activity. I can't be for that. You're not for that. And so we're not for that. So one of the reasons that currencies are regulated is so that you can avoid illegal activity. And so I happen to know a lot of things about currency, partly because I had been in-house counsel at a bank and I've studied currencies over centuries. And I do believe that I underestimated Bitcoin in the sense that currency, it is a currency. And originally I thought it was not a currency, but it actually is a currency in the sense that in a trade transaction, if two parties are recognizing it and giving it that value, that's the value it has. So
which makes it currency.
It's currency.
Got
So
it.
it's very fascinating. So then with the next level, you want to say, and this affects each coin. So if someone says to you, buy at least one coin or half of a coin. Well, what's the scheme? What's the coin? How is it diluted? What is its cap? These are all mathematical formulas. You understand that about the algorithm and all these other things. So as long as has this definite life cycle of the mathematical formula, and it has the integrity, and they're not just equity stripping, taking everybody's investments and running. So we've seen a few of those. So the coins won't sustain themselves because they don't maintain the transaction integrity that they need. So I would say it's a very, very complicated arena. What I've seen done, so when you talk about like your kids and you're going to teach them how to budget, right? So I think the best tip I ever heard, I don't condone this, I don't endorse it, but one of my clients was advising someone who said, how can I get into Bitcoin? They said, well, what can you afford to lose? 1,000. 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, whatever. Elon Musk, 100 million, whatever you can afford to lose. So you can invest that and then watch it and be educated. And then when it doubles, you take your investment out.
Good point. I like that perspective.
And then this person did so, and they was something, whatever, $10 a Bitcoin went up to like 60. So they took their money out and then they rode the wave up and down, up, down, now it's coming back up. So the great thing was, like any investment, not like a currency, they treated it like an investment. That they could afford to lose it.
Do you know? It's funny. I'm going to send you the episode of the Problem Solver talking about Bitcoin, but I was making a joke because do you know the guy's name that started Bitcoin, or what they call him or her? Do you know
I'm
the name?
supposed to know this, but
it's funny because I guess it's Hoshimoto.
It's a funny name, yeah.
It's like Hoshimoto, but I was asking, like, is it a guy? Is it a girl? Like, we don't know. So I kept saying like Moshimoto. I kept changing the name on the show. It was kind of funny. But I'm going to send you the episode that I will share. I mean, look, not that I'm a major guru. And like I said, I've done real estate investing over the years that I've been successful with, for investing purposes. But I would say, I mean, yes, diversification is key. And honestly, from going through that one Problem Solver, episode with the Bitcoin guru, the Bitcoin whisperer, it sounds like, I mean, if I have 3 kids, if I can give each kid a Bitcoin for the future, it sounds like it pays. The diversification of what Bitcoin. Now, it would definitely decrease a lot of money. I think it was like $15,000 to $20,000. Now it's back up to 50. I mean, it definitely seems like a better time. And then he sent me a video, which I'll send to you as well. It's saying just at least have a minimum of 2/3 of one coin. So I thought it was interesting. But what I do find interesting, he wasn't like, you need to have 100 coins or 10 coins. It was a very limited amount and just like save onto it. Or he was saying put $100 a month into a Bitcoin over the next 10 years because of like the limited supply. But who knows? I mean, it's just who knows? It's just a crazy time in general. So. But anyway, so the goal, you would say, is diversification. If you made some money, pull that investment out, and then you could just maintain whatever you got going on, which is you're playing with the money that you basically made.
And I'm not a financial advisor, but that was just a tip. But I will say to the Bitcoin investing, I was involved in a case in Washington State where a scheme was developed, I don't even know, hundreds of millions of dollars. And they actually were just investing in the company that was maybe mining. In other words, it wasn't a direct investment in the coin. So in the end, in this very complicated bankruptcy that's probably on year 4 or 5 now, it was the investors or participants who had the right lawyer, who made the right claim immediately, who negotiated some kind of settlement, who got any money at all. Otherwise, these hundreds of millions of dollars are wiped out.
No, it's crazy.
So again, I would say be sure you have the coin. There's some very reputable sites. Bitcoin has one, Coinbase. Go through those sites. I wouldn't recommend a scheme.
Got it. I'll send you the thing just for you to look at, maybe for laughs. You let me know what your thoughts are. I'm assuming people send you contracts all the time or different things to review, right? To ask for your opinion?
Well, they pay, yeah.
Yeah. For your opinion to review.
Yeah, of course. That's what we do.
Okay, good. Send my bill to Travis. He's the engineer. He normally picks up all my bills.
No, that's incorrect.
So, okay, let's jump to actually, it's interesting topics we'll talk about. Let's jump to number 8, real estate right now, because you did a lot of real estate transactions, being the attorney and watching it over. Is it 30 years?
over that, but we don't, I'm a lady, so I have to.
You're only 25.
I have to like balance that professional experience. I work over 35 years. I don't want to look that old.
I thought you were 28, so I was confused by seeing 30 years. So here's a question for you. What are your thoughts about the real estate market today? Just getting your opinion again, not that anyone should go out buy or sell real estate upon what you're saying. What are your thoughts about the real estate market today?
Here's the thing about real estate and financing, actually. So think about, most young people don't know about the inflation of the 70s, but the interest rate was as high as 19%. Businesses were still buying, manufacturers were still taking loans, and individuals are still buying at that crazy high inflation. You would say, why? Okay, so let's take it to today. Let's learn from history and take it to today. If your purpose for this object, if that is worth the value to you, then pay it. Because where are you going to live? Like, we're looking for that kind of retirement, one-story type of house. It's inflated prices. I don't want to buy now, but of course I'm going to buy because we're aging and it's health reasons and it's the house I want, and I will overpay because it's the house that I want. So part of it is just understanding, what does it mean to you? If you're not in that financial position, then you should probably wait it out. But we see this also with businesses. So if the business can maintain the debt service, then it's going to move forward. So I don't know where the top of the market is. I don't know if it's followed by deflation. I think we have some very interesting times, and we've had them now with COVID, with the secret ingredient of this government infusion. But think of a market where the government is not infusing all of that. So I do think that businesses have to be, specifically to business, very forward-thinking and conservative. They're getting rid of a lot of excess. One of the things that is very new during COVID is a new kind of a bankruptcy. And this bankruptcy is called Subchapter 5. And what's so amazing about this bankruptcy is that in the past, people wouldn't have wanted to file a bankruptcy or reorganization because you bring in creditors committees, you have trustees, they're going to override your decision. Hey, look, you're the business owner. The Subchapter 5 is specifically, uniquely excludes a trustee. It has a special trustee, but they don't interfere. It excludes any kind of committees. Your legal fees are minuscule compared to what used to be the reorganization legal fees. But the reason I bring this up is, let's say that you operate 7 office buildings, but now people are working from home and some of your tenants are canceling. Maybe a couple of those office buildings, the neighborhood has changed and you want to let it go. In the past, you would have never let it go. But now we actually have this opportunity to downsize the business, but make it leaner and to remain in control and to restructure some of that debt, maybe got behind on some of the payments. So now I think with the Subchapter 5 is a great, great opportunity for businesses to go lean and long.
That's new, the Subchapter 5?
Yes.
That's something new.
It's ironic because it was actually passed in February of 2020, which was just a few weeks before the closures. So it was not related to COVID at all, but it is actually one of the best COVID solutions for business.
So just to recap, the reason why someone would do bankruptcy Subchapter 5 is?
They reorganize with a fraction of the costs of the old, the original.
So because of COVID, if someone wants to reorganize, you're saving money by doing this bankruptcy Subchapter 5. Well,
when you reorganize, you can get rid of the contracts that didn't work, the leases, the space that didn't work, without them crushing you. Because, your landlord doesn't have to let you off a lease. If you're a restaurant operating 7 locations, but you need to close 2, they will destroy those other locations.
So this would help you as a business
You get
owner.
rid of the 2.
Because
yeah.
But did this come about before COVID?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So there's a timing which just happened to be right. Mm-hmm. Are a lot of people doing the Subchapter 5? No,
I think it's not being well advertised. I think people were hoping for the PPP or the SBA loan. They still haven't they were really believing things would go back to prior operations. Mm-hmm. But as we're getting a sense of what is going to be cash flow, and we're seeing now staffing shortages, maybe they can't reopen because they can't get staff. We're seeing supply shortages. There's just a lot of reasons why production is not back to pre-COVID.
But if I'm a business and I do the Subchapter 5 and I basically want to go into another contract, can they find out it's public information that I did the subchapter 5 bankruptcy, then maybe another person doesn't want to deal with me for contract purposes, right?
Well, that has been the perception, and
People
a lot
are probably afraid of doing it, right?
And well, a lot of people would just lose their whole business as opposed to kind of restructuring, which is why it's called a restructure. I think it's going to become much more acceptable and looked on positively. The people did stay in business and were able to honor the contracts that they could, that they made adjustments based on lack of supply, lack of staffing. So I understand what you're saying about perception, but I'm not sure losing your whole life's work and business. A lot of times the people my age, they're employing their parents. They bought them out. They're employing their adult children. So if I own a business, I've got 3 generations are wiped out. And where are they going to go to work? So this is very common of my clients.
I like it.
And so we want to keep them in business so that they can.
The bottom line is going to help. It's not. That's why they basically need to get with you to figure out what's the best interest.
Right.
Right. For bankruptcy. So you do bankruptcy subchapter 5 because you deal with more business, but you don't deal with regular personal bankruptcy. No, just business.
Correct.
Business bankruptcy in regards to that. Okay. So the last thing when we talked about real estate, so one thing I want to share is that with the real estate market, people say look at history, but the thing is, if you look at the real estate cycle, I mean, 100 years ago, like when the 1918 flu, 1920 flu, whatever it was, I mean, it's just we're a totally different world from 100 years. So I just feel like it's a weird situation. And you watch some of the gurus.
No, but the factors are the same. Okay. So funny story, when COVID closures came, I put out the word and I was able to gather 9 summer college interns last summer in lockdown. So we had like Zoom interns all over the U.S. Okay. The University of Miami, Seattle, and Seton Hall, Pennsylvania. And I had them actually research and do a white paper on the economic impact, the historical impact of the Great Depression, the inflation of the 70s, and then the COVID closures, so that we could look for correlating indicators of recovery. Well, when did it get worse and when did it get better? So this was really fun to do. And they really literally developed a white paper and they would talk about these correlations. And so the findings were that the most common recovery item was actually government involvement. So you think about the Depression, you had the CCC and the government created all these jobs, the Conservation Corps, right? They sent out all these people to work, it created jobs, it created infusion of money into the economy. So we're seeing this now, and we're really all wanting to believe that this government infusion is actually going to work and help to stimulate the economy. But that was a factor in the Great Depression. That was one of the top 3 factors for recovery. And then another factor, well, honestly, is any kind of a military conflict. Because the military machine and building the machine, so whatever that is, if it's production of weapons, that it creates jobs and it puts money back into the economy. So I'm not for war, but I'm just saying that's one of the very material factors. And, so I think that when you're listening to the pundits speaking, and they can actually draw from history about what worked before. The thing is, at some point we have to reopen.
Got it.
So it's the continued interference with the free market that's going to impact our idea of recovery.
So just to recap on one thing, for like a regular local person or a real estate investor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you if you need a home, basically you need a place to live. Right, interest rates are low. You can still buy a place. There's different programs that are available, and the rates are the lowest, like probably in history. Right, my parents I think paid 8 or 9%. You can get 2.25%, 2%, 1.75. So it is low. So if you need a place, basically buy a place. But if you have business people that want to invest, with looking at history, because you probably studied it much more than I have, would you say to wait it out because you think that there's going to be foreclosures in the future? Or you think because the government's involvement that there won't be all these foreclosures like they did in 2009.
Right.
Not to put you on the spot. I'm just getting more a little bit detailed.
And it's important from a legal standpoint to help my clients to consider which way it would go. So I don't have a crystal ball. I couldn't say 100%. But what we learned after our recession here was that leverage can be really bad. So this idea of take every little thing you have and leverage it times 10 times really came back to bite people. They lost everything. So this is kind of a personal investing and a business principle. So really, they want to be conservative. They want to make sure that the cash flow is coming in. It can cover their debt service, maybe pay down some of that debt service. Now, because real estate is so high, does someone who owns real estate, do they want to sell some pieces? Do they want to diversify, buy into some Bitcoin? So it probably is a good time to diversify. And then, now if you sold and you think later prices would drop, well, I don't know if they'll drop, but where were you going to put the money in the meantime? So part of it is, again, that protection of that asset. So where are you putting it in the meantime where it's also
making money for you?
Well, or no, just inflation or deflation proof.
Got it. No, it's interesting.
So,
I think you said it. I think it's diversification, reorganization, depending upon your situation. Whether you're a young person or older person, you have to reevaluate during the economic time. So I think that's the biggest thing. Everyone's in a different situation. If you need a home to live, it's one thing. It's interesting to say about leverage, because the engineer here that's here, Travis, the learning lesson that I have being 45, and he's, Travis, how old are you?
23.
So when we talk about leverage, right? Actually, I succeeded because of leverage. Because in 2009, when there was foreclosures, I leveraged the bank and bought 16 homes, right? But sometimes when everyone's, selling or the other, sometimes you do the opposite. So I think the key is it's the timing of when you leverage. And also it's what loan products are available. And the government's always coming up with some different programs. So a lot of people did lose out. I actually succeeded when the market changed and there was foreclosures and there were certain products to leverage. Someone like Travis should be leveraging an FHA loan, going to buy a condo, a fourplex, a townhome, and leveraging FHA loans so that he could have a real estate portfolio. So I think everyone's different depending upon your age and the future, but it makes an interesting topic. Like I said, Bitcoin wasn't around in the past. I do believe personally Bitcoin diversifying different things, in general. So it's just interesting because you've been doing it for a long time to see your perspective. I know that we're running out of a little bit of time, but I just want to get one or two more questions really quickly in. Number 9 was, if you hear about government help that's important for businesses in general, what other help is available for businesses that are struggling to stay open? Because right now, a lot of employees are not coming back to work. They're getting unemployment. What do you know? What's out there? And I guess Small Business Reorganization Act. Tell us a little bit what you want to share about that for some business owners.
And so here's what I would say. It's so interesting because early in my career as a lawyer and when I was in-house counsel for a bank, we had a little blip in the market for a couple of years. And so I was dealing with a lot of commercial borrowers who couldn't make their debt service. So what I learned from that and what I would say holds true today, again, is first, meet with your wealth advisors, your accountant, see where you are on gain, loss, traction, meet with your attorney, obviously, and then get consensus from any other owners of your business, because what you want to do is you want to be very aggressive about leakage again, and then you want to be modifying as you go. We already talked about that earlier. And I think that by doing that, by staying in communication, what you can't do, it's really more about the don't do.
Okay.
Don't let your number one creditor pressure you to pay 80% of your income to them. So whether that's a landlord or a bank or a supplier, it just cannot happen. You're out of business already. So that is the tendency to want to do. Maybe they were your buddy and you used to go on these like sailing trips to, San Diego, but now you cannot pay them except a percentage. So I would say that's the number one thing. Do not just pay off the person who put the most pressure on you. Don't do it. Your business will most likely not survive it. So looking at the whole business approach, negotiating, keeping the negotiations going, honor those commitments, then you should be able to withstand it. If you can't make it, then we do have this great subchapter 5 reorganization now. We do have some other techniques to try to protect the business, keep it going. But I think the unknown, like who would have known about the staffing shortage? Who would have known about the supply shortages even 9 months ago? So I think it's just being flexible enough for the unknown. But here, I'll tell you, the most interesting thing is that the baby boomers have had it and they're retiring. They're just leaving. So I thought those people would never stop because I'm one of the last years of the boomers. Okay. So I'm the youngest boomer. Okay. And I just thought they'd just never leave. But now because of COVID, they're just done.
Well, they don't want to really go out and they don't want to.
No, these are big business owners. They're just done. So the beautiful thing is for these next generations, come make some offers, get into the game, buy out some.
Buying business.
Yeah.
So let's just recap. And like I said, we're finishing up here in general. And I know that you have a wealth of information. I definitely need to have you come back on the show to talk a little bit more about succession planning, estate planning, wills and trusts, because we could talk about that for another hour in general. But I think we covered a lot of stuff in regards to your nonprofit, how you're helping people in the community and solving problems, which is great. Definitely like to be a part of that and support it as well. And then we talked about real estate, we talked about the Bitcoin and stuff like that. I think what it comes down to is that we need guidance from different people, right? And you definitely are that person to meet with if you have a business and you want to go over it in general. I mean, everyone's different of where they're at. I like the fact that you talk about the baby boomers, that they have different businesses. Like if I'm interested in buying a business, I should come talk with you to see, because you know other business owners that maybe there's a successful business to take over, or you can make a deal, right? I mean, you can make a deal that you know certain business owners. You can do the business contracts. You can help basically, whether we talked about before, licensing agreements or all these different things in general business. So if anyone basically wants some help, I'll have them set up to meet with you. Do you normally do like initial consultation, free consultation, just to meet and greet? Like, what do you normally do?
Well, we're getting to know clients and what we think they'd be interested in, but generally we're giving legal advice right from the very beginning. Okay. So the trust and estates are definitely a free consultation. Kind of an introduction might be free, but you'd be surprised how quickly a businessman wants to get to answers.
Got it.
And then that's using my expertise. So generally for business, they come in with a checkbook or a credit card, and they expect to do so.
Got it. And what about if someone wanted to buy a business? Because you brought it up a few times, which is intriguing me. I'm just, in my mind, I'm like intrigued, like what businesses or what people that you may have. If someone wanted to intrigue to find out like what business may be available, that you have business contacts, is that just a phone call to you and
exactly.
Say, hey, what contacts do you have, or what's available?
Well, one of the most interesting aspects, I think, is what involvement in the business do you want? So some of these boomers who are selling off their assets of business, they have cash now. Well, they'd love to put $200,000 here and $300,000 there, $500,000 there, and help that next generation buy out their parents. Let's say it's a 2 or 3 generation business. So we're seeing quite a bit of that. And so they want to come in just as a silent kind of partner. And so let's just say it's a little mini local Shark Tank kind of thing. But there's no ridiculous returns. It's just a nice way to pass it forward, but also see their money working.
So do you have, like in your mind right now, do you have a few clients that are looking to sell their business?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
we always do. We always do. Okay. Yeah. And not only those, but I've had this firm for 11 years. So I may only have, I'm a boutique firm, so I'm very custom clients, but I have 11 years of clients.
No, it's very interesting. I mean, I would not have thought of hey, let me call like a business attorney to see if they know people that want to sell a business. So it's kind of an interesting concept. So if basically anyone's looking for basically buying a business, I mean, a business attorney that has relationships with someone like a niche market, basically, I'm learning sometimes this becomes therapy for me as well. So bottom line is that Shawna Brennan is an attorney at law, local businesses, anyone that needs help for business, and estate planning as well for personal, right? For personal estate planning?
Well, it's the succession and estate planning. Business owners want to pass it on, but also individuals. Okay. So
would you do with an individual that needs to protect their assets?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
But what happens is when you do a lot of businesses, it leads into the succession planning.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Got it. I'm glad we explained that all in general. Okay, so we're going to have you come back on a show in the future to talk about that other stuff of the succession planning and the estate planning, because it's a great topic in general. I will definitely start referring people to you in general, and like I said, the show we'll basically come on, stir some things up, and maybe get some of the younger people that are interested. And I like that concept of helping and paying it forward to some other young business owners in general. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. As we end here today, basically every single week, I am bringing on different and great people, nonprofit leaders, business owners, leaders, lawyers, basically helping people in general. So I am the problem solver. I'm David Kohlmeyer, retired police officer. Every single week, please join me. I hope you have a great week. If you need anything, you can contact me at 702-400-7474. Again, 702-400-7474. Or you can go to the problemsolver.vegas. If you need any help, click some buttons, and I'm here for you every single week. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.